The book is complete. The text block has been glued in. The book is not perfect. However, in this video, I'm going to show you how we glued in the text block. So let's get into this. Welcome to Solitary RPG. Before I get started into the actual gluing in of the text block, I want to point out some stuff. So the book didn't turn out perfectly. You're going to see this blemish right here while I am gluing in the text block. And what happened there was some of the glue got on the cover, and you can kind of see it on some of the different spots on the cover where some of the glue, I was a little sloppy, and I tried to remove it by getting the cover wet and rubbing off the glue, and it rubbed off the ink. So don't do that. So this has been a video really about a lot of the mistakes I've made with this book. I thought about maybe taking some printouts of Warhammer Quests and gluing those onto the cover, but that's just going to create more problems in the future because this will end up just peeling off, and then I'll have to deal with it. At that point, it's just not worth it. So I'm just going to live with it. It's just going to be maybe some weathering, we'll call it that, from like getting put on the shelf a bunch. It's just worn off a little bit. So that was a mistake, and that's just how it is. You'll make your own mistakes with your books. But now let's get into the actual gluing in of the text block. It turned out beautifully. There's no wrinkling, and it's going to hold the book in great. So let's jump into that. So we're going to glue the text block into our book cover, and this process is going to move quickly. So I'm going to show you how to do this without actually gluing it together, and then I'm just going to start gluing it together. And once I start adding glue, I've got to move quickly because the glue will start to set, and as soon as it makes contact with the cardboard, I need to get it pressed right away, so that way it can get nice and smooth. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure the front of our cover and the front of our text block are in correctly. All of our pages are facing in the right direction. We don't want to make the mistake of gluing it in upside down. Everything is sized the right way. So what we're going to do is basically I'm going to put a piece of scrap paper in my text block to protect any glue from getting over. I'm going to pour a bunch of glue on. In this particular process, I am going to use a paintbrush. I'm going to get all the glue tacked down, spread it around, make sure I'm happy with it. What's going to happen is this piece of paper is going to curl. That's normal. So what I'll do is I will hold it up straight. I will take the piece of scrap paper out. And then what I'll end up doing is just setting down the book cover and making sure it's smooth, and then I'll put it in my book press. But when I put it in my book press, what I need to do is I need to build a little elevation on the table that I will be resting my book press on. And I will be setting the book with the spine of the book just hanging over the platform that I built. So basically like that, so that the spine hangs over. And the reason for that is if I just put this in the press like that, the spine is the same thickness as my book, and the very end right through here might not get as good of a press. So by hanging it over just a little bit, that's really going to give the book an opportunity to press down and get a good bind right there. And that's what we're after. So we'll build a little platform. I'll set it down. I'll put my book press down. And again, when I put the top on the book press down, I'll be doing the same thing, just setting along the edge, and then I will have my book press down. So this way the spine is kind of getting pushed out. And then we'll let it dry for 24 hours, and then we'll come back the next day and we'll do the back. So we're going to start with the front, move to the back the following day, and then that finishes our book. So This, like I said, it's going to move quickly. So what I need to do is get everything set up and ready to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I kind of have my book where I want it. That's important. Make sure everything's good. And once I feel I've got everything where I want it, just trying to make sure the top and the bottom have even spacing, making sure the front looks good, and it is looking fantastic. Okay, so when we set it down, we open up our cover, and when we close the cover to do the, once it's glued, what you want to do is you want to push your spine forward, holding the book and just holding everything in place. It's an art. It's an art form. It's not always easy to do. And actually, I think what I'll do is I'm going to put a couple blocks down just so that when I'm doing everything, I don't have that spine protruding out. And this is nerve-wracking because all the hard work we put into everything, even though I screwed up my cover a little bit, I'm okay with that. But all that hard work we put in could all be wasted by messing up this glue. So I think I'm good. I think I'm happy with everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our scrap paper in. Now here comes one of the challenging things. Like you shift things around. You're like, oh, I got to start all over again. I got to remeasure everything. You know what? It's worth it. Just if you mess things up and you don't feel comfortable with it, I've tried some other techniques with like clips, trying to hold the text block in place and things like that. Nothing's ever worked. The best way to do it is just hold it up, put some pressure on it, and just do your best. There is no right or wrong way. It's going to shift a little bit, and you're just going to have to contend with it. So now we're just going to put a bunch of glue down. And like I said, this paper's going to curl. That is just how it's going to be. Hold it down in the center with your fingers. Make sure you get your paper, or the fabric, I'm sorry, tap down really good with a lot of that glue, because that's part of your reinforcement for your book. If you start going off the edge, just kind of clean it up. See, I just shifted everything. It's going to happen, and I don't know if there's any secret way to make this any easier or better. So the paper's starting to curl. Not bad though. Ugh. All right, so I've shifted a million different times, but I feel I'm good, and I got the glue. Ooh, it's not in the very front here. Yeah. Just make sure you got your glue down really good. Keep your fingers clean. Pull up your paper. Now to put it down, kind of line everything up again. Hold the paper. Check your spine first. Check your spacing. If you're happy with your spacing, then you're good. But then hold your spine up against it. Make sure your spine is straight. The nerve-wracking part. And then just fold the book down. Clean your hands off so we don't get excess glue all over the place. What we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of parchment paper. We're going to put that in there. Then we're going to take a piece of multi-purpose paper, put that in there, and then I've got to go put this in the book press. So I got to get that done. So be back to show you the results. Okay, so here it is the next day, and the end page is glued in nice and smooth. There's no wrinkles. Unfortunately, because of the color, you can't really tell how nicely this is glued together, but where we folded over the art print or the cover print, it's actually got a ridge going around it, following it. So it means it glued together quite nicely. I do need to correct something in the first half of this video. When I was putting the paper in, I said you put the parchment paper in first, and then that's followed up with the piece of multi-purpose paper. And that was wrong. It's actually supposed to be the other way around, because the parchment paper will not stick to the Elmer's glue. And any of the glue that gets over on the edge here, it won't stick to it, so you can peel it off and everything will be good. This piece of multi-purpose paper, just like regular art paper, is used just to draw in some of the extra moisture. So that's why you do it this way. Sorry about that. I was going to go through and edit the video, but I figured I would just do it at this part of the video. Also, when I put it in my book press, I did not tell you to put it with the glue side down, touching the platform that we built. That way all of the weight is there, all the pressure is there, and it's pushing down on it in that way. So those are two corrections, and I will make sure to reiterate those in the second half of this video when we glue the back half of the book on. So let's get started on that. So this is going to be the same process. We're going to put a piece of scrap paper in here. The good thing about gluing the back half of the book on is it's not going to shift on us because the front half is all glued in place. So we're good there. We don't have to worry about the book shifting on us. We're going to put our piece of scrap paper in. We've got our damp towel to wipe off the excess glue. We've got our paintbrush, and we've got our papers here to get everything ready to put into the book press. So let's just go ahead and get started. We're just gonna put down a bunch of glue, and this is going to bind it all together. There's no real magical amount. You just gotta get used to doing this over time, of how much glue to put down. Too little and then you got to put more down, and that's always kind of a waste of time, and the glue will set up too much, and then you're removing glue, and again then you create that waste of time as you're waiting for and putting more glue down, and it can start to dry on you, start to set. So you kind of just gotta work kind of quickly, and just if you have too much, you're just gonna go through it, and you can wipe it off with a towel and stuff, but too little, you got to put more down. Want to make sure, like I can see right there, I don't really have a lot on that end there, so I'm just going to push a little bit more. So we're going to hold the paper so it doesn't shift on us, and then we're going to push our spine up straight, make sure it's straight, and then we just put the cover down. So the process is simple, but you got to just kind of move quickly with it, because if that glue starts to set up, that can create problems for you. Kind of push it down, and then on the inside again, it's going to be the multi-purpose paper, and then we will put our parchment paper in, and then I'm going to go put this in the book press. Tomorrow I will show you the finished book. So that was gluing in the text block, and to be honest with you, I think it glued in quite nicely, and it's holding the book in place like it's supposed to. And as you can see, when you open it, it's flexing right here, and that is why we put so much glue, and we put that fabric going down the back of the spine to help with that flexing, so when we're reading the book, it is staying held together, and those ropes in there will really hold it together even better. So it turned out great. So now that this book is done, yes, it's not perfect. It's got some imperfections, but then again, these were PDFs and they weren't perfect, and they have lots of imperfections. The next book I'm going to make will be the character booklets that Little Monk has put out on his website for all the different characters that he's created for the Warhammer Quest world. So I'll have two different books. I'll have the original Warhammer Quest character booklets, and then I'll have the, we'll say, fan-made character booklets from Little Monk. And then I also need to print out and bind the role-playing game book, and that's going to be a beast of a book because it's a lot of pages and it's 8.5 by 11. So I'll get to work on that. I'm not going to do videos on those. I will just come back and show them once they're done, because it's hard to do videos recording this type of a process in my setup. A lot of the videos I've watched of other bookbinders do it, they've got a better setup and they can do a lot better videos. This is me being the hack that I am at bookbinding, putting together the books that I am going to be using for Warhammer Quest. So it'll probably be a couple weeks before I do any updates on Warhammer Quest while I'm binding those books. But I hope this was informative and that you learned a little bit about bookbinding, learned a lot about the mistakes I've made through the bookbinding process so that you don't make those mistakes. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.